Good evening, welcome to Winners and Losers, sponsored by bookmakers.com. They are bookmakers, they are our main sponsor. Details are in the description below. It's me, Chris Brack, and I'm joined by Pete. Pete, how you doing, mate?
How's it going, pal? All good?
Not too bad. I've been to the show for ages.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was on a few weeks ago with Gav. Good to catch up, Good to catch up. But I've been dying last couple of weeks. Absolutely dying. Been tuning in, but just the flu over here hits you harder when you go from nice weather to terrible weather all of a sudden.
Is it the flu, or is it just because you watched the Crystal Palace game which basically sent everyone to sleep?
Enough to make anybody sick. Listen, it's just one of those. It's one of those seasons. We need to get through. We played 100 million games last year. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, cool. Right. So for those of you who've not seen the show before, Pete's picked a winner and a loser of the week. So have I, and we'll have a bit of a discussion, and we'll bring people's points up in the chat, and we'll just jump in a bit of a chinwag. So I'll start first then. So I'll go with my winner, which I know this will go down like a lead balloon, Pete, but got to give him the flowers to fair. I've gone for Ten Hag because, give him his credit, he's got the first trophy in 6 years. He's got that side playing to a plan, which, to be honest, United haven't played for a plan since Ferguson left. He's making them a side that's a bit like, I can't really be arsed playing them. And I'll give him credit where credit was due. He took Ronaldo on head on and basically took on the ego and went, you play my way or you go. Ronaldo went, I'm not going to play your way. He went, okay, sit at the bench then. I'm going to go. Go on then. And he just went and he said, let him go. And he's just like, it was probably what should have been done to Ronaldo a year or so ago. Just call him out and just say, like, well, you play our way or you go. And if you don't like it, go. So I think you've got to give him credit. And to be honest, it was funny watching Eddie Howe just lose his shit, which is always quite funny. So that's how I see it. I know you're not overly enamored with Man United. We all dislike him, but
I'll let you have your saying, then I'll tell you what I think.
Go on. You jump in. Go on.
I just think it's amazing how far the standards have truly fallen at Manchester United. I know we talk about it day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out at this stage. When somebody comes in, applies a little bit of logic, nothing genius, and all of a sudden they become a winner, in inverted commas. I mean, Harry Maguire, for example, the first major thing he did was just to bomb Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire is not a Premier League centre-half. He's not an international centre-half, in my view. He's not even a competent centre-half. He was being covered by, fellas trying to invent systems because of his price tag. But all of a sudden, Erik ten Hag comes in, bombs him, and he's a genius. No, it's just logic. Cristiano Ronaldo came back to the club, and unlike when the likes of Teddy Sheringham goes back to a football club, or when a proper professional goes back to a football club and adds something to it, takes the pressure off young players, allows them to perform. Cristiano Ronaldo makes the whole show about him, puts people under pressure, the results under pressure, and all of a sudden, to Erik ten Hag, because he bombs him, wants nothing to do him, is a genius. The point I'm trying to make, there's probably 6 or 7 of those examples. I mean, bringing in someone like Anthony to come in and do a dance, basically, for nearly 100 million quid. I mean, you cannot overestimate how poor a signing Anthony is. He's a YouTube star. It's all about, look at me, here's photographs of me supporting my team from the sideline because I'm not good enough to play in the Premier League. This is a fella who's won trophies, at Ajax, who understands the level that Erik ten Hag himself would come to appreciate. It's like fellas that praise people for making tackles. I'm always worried about that. I always worry about someone like, for example, praising Aaron Wan-Bissaka because he makes tackles. Whereas I would say to you, if his positioning was better, he wouldn't have to make those tackles. Like when Javier Mascherano was playing in our midfield, and everybody would say, and I used to go to a lot of those games, a lot of people would say, oh God, he's brilliant in the tackle. Well, if you're playing for Liverpool Football Club, you shouldn't have to be brilliant in the tackle because your position should be better, and we should be talking about your passing, breaking lines. We should be talking about how often you stay on your feet despite having that in the locker. So I'm not part of the cheerleader squad not just because he's Manchester United manager, but because he's just come in and done some basics in a season where Manchester City and Liverpool have absolutely punched each other out for the last 7 or 8 seasons. He's thrown his first team every week into that League Cup and he's won it. Okay, fair enough. And he's really, it's just about timing. A lot of Chelsea are in absolute flux. There's an awful lot. There's an awful lot of critical mass going on in the rest of the league for Manchester. I mean, Manchester United, you say they're competent. I mean, I look at their league fixtures. Okay, they beat Manchester City, but that aside, I haven't looked at any of their performances, and I've watched them all and went, oh, they've absolutely played them off the park. They're playing off the break.
I think Brian here covers it, saying there's no denying it. Ten Hag's done a good job, handled everything well. He's installed a bit of pride and professionalism, but it has to be said, they are a team of fine margins. There are, because there are quite a few games where you go, if the result, if certain things don't fall for you, he's on a hide into nothing. Where I will give him credit, I do think he's also done something which I'll probably the last 2-3 managers haven't done, is he's definitely done a bit of coaching. And now we all go, well, it's his job. It is his job. But there's plenty of managers who've been at Man United and other clubs who don't do that and just go, bin him off, buy the next one. Bin him off, buy the next one.
I don't know. He spent let's not talk about as if he's brought in, kids, and all of a sudden.
No, but I mean,
he's brought in Varane and Casemiro, hundreds of millions, and he's put them into areas. I mean, this is not special.
I'm not talking. Would you say Fred is better than he was 2 years ago?
Well, Fred has always been the fella that roll up his sleeves and do a job. Again, Fred is not doing that different that he hasn't done before for Manchester United.
I think he is, because I think he's getting picked more now. I think they've took the agreement of bidding autonomy off. I think Dalot's playing better than he was. Even to be fair to Wan-Bissaka, I know what you mean about the tackle thing. In the final, he wasn't doing the Wan-Bissaka thing that I've accused him of loads, which is he doesn't look over his shoulder. Because the easiest thing to do was play between Wan-Bissaka and centre-back, because he never followed his runner. And admittedly, he's played St. Maximan, who's basically just doing party tricks all game, because he was just outrageously poor. But I think in terms of the price tag, I don't blame him for the price tag of certain players. From friends I have, United fans, they all say the same thing. Casemiro and Antony, he definitely wanted them early in the summer, and I actually think that's more down to how shit the recruitment is at United. They left it last minute, and clubs aren't stupid. Just go, well, you've got the money, we'll double the price until you pay it. They're the ones saying, listen, has it been perfect? No, but I think first trophy in 6 years, the run's kind, but at the end of the day, you've still got to do it, So I still give him his credit for it. Are United back? They're not back anywhere near the United we had to put up with in the 90s, which was horrendous to look through.
Yeah, they were relentless, and they always had the ball, and you were afraid. I'm not afraid of this side.
No, but it's building blocks, isn't it? So you would say he's trying to build a foundation, and fair play. So I'll give him his credit where it happens. Let's see where he is in a year's time. But let's give him. I sort of give him his credit. Won a trophy. They're comfortably third at the moment. They'll probably finish comfortably third. I don't see them being in a title race, because I still think there's too many holes in that squad ultimately to make them challenge. But that's what we need, isn't it? Really. Right. Let's go on to your loser, because I've got a feeling this is going to ruffle some feathers. Who is your loser?
Yeah. Naby Keita. I mean, and it's nothing to do with the idiots that are on Twitter, posting the same images of him breaking the lines against Bournemouth 3 and 4 years ago, or that a couple of games against Palace, 2 or 3 years ago, where he did a turn in his own half. And it's the fella. I just look at him in terms of his own attitude. This is a season, for example, where lads last year have run themselves into the ground. If you're a player worth your salt, and I don't care what contractual decision you've made, whether after you didn't start the Champions League final, you've decided that you're going to not sign it. I don't care about that. It's about your own pride as a professional. The lad doesn't have any pride as a professional. I mean, anybody can have a bad injury record. I think it's a bit narrow to say, listen, you're injured all the time. Different fellas break down. They don't. But I always say the fellas break down because they don't prepare properly. And it's no coincidence that you're questioning, I'm questioning his attitude, and I'm also wondering if he prepares properly. It's that simple, because you don't pick up that many niggles before, during, and after games unless you do. But looking at the game itself on Saturday evening, a lot of the fellas that will love him have their pictures of him on their social media profiles will tell you he made 5 and 6 challenges, and he was wrong side of the ball 4 and 5 times, and he had to make those challenges because he can't read a game of football. to be honest with you. He's not switched on, and he was absolutely... I mean, at one stage, I thought he was trying to get himself sent off. I thought he was trying to prove a point. Fuck yous, to hell with this team, and I'm going to get myself sent off. Because at professional level, I mean, yeah, there's another Egypt. Law, any excuse for a bit of Naby standard. I mean, it's like Trump supporters that just don't want to see it. These people don't understand the game. I mean, we used to have these conversations, myself and Kev and Phil Casey, with Paul Pogba, people that just refuse to see it. They refuse to see it. Paul Pogba's attitude stunk the place out. I don't care how talented you are. Sometimes it's about rolling their sleeves up and doing a shift, the basic things for the team. Too many times I've seen Naby Keita pick up the ball in deep positions and run it into other people. And that's what he did. And so he just ran the ball into other people. I mean, how dare Gary, whatever your name is, mention his name in the same breath as somebody like Jordan Henderson? I don't care. Bring out all the compilations yourself. When you bring the performances and other people out that Jordan Henderson brings out in your teammates, then you can have that conversation. But Naby Keita, I mean, he'll be, in my view, it's a modern phenomenon in 2023 that he can be linked to clubs like Barcelona, but he'll go there and he'll stink the place out. It's not as physical in Spain, we all know that. So he'll look like a Rolls Royce again, and people will say, oh, Liverpool made a mistake there, letting him go probably, or he'll go to a Paris. But he just doesn't have it. And this season, when we need people to roll their sleeves up and do the business for us, he's just stinking the place out. And Brian, nobody's steaming into Keita for one poor game. If you look at the amount of games that he hasn't been available for, how can these people, thanks for the comments and all, but how can you honestly say that with a straight face watching football? I mean, football, your most important ability is availability. The fella is probably not available for a good 70% of games. At this stage, just show him the door. Thanks for the memories, whatever they are. You look good holding some of the trophies that we won, but he just hasn't done it. Just accept it and let him go.
The thing I would say is, when you said it's about his preparation for games, because he gets so many injuries, it's the same criticism got to be made then about Oxlade-Chamberlain and the Matips, who pick up an awful lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Or some players, you're just susceptible. Some players, it's just what your body's built. Michael Owen was the one, isn't he? He would always pick up a hamstring injury. But when you spoke to his dad and his brother, who played football at lower levels, they all picked up that type of injury. Sometimes it's just the way you're built. I mean, if we're going just on Saturday, I thought he was looking to stay on till half time, because he generally looked like every tackle was going to get himself sent off. Listen, players can have a bad game, and I see people say, what about Trent? What about Salah? We did one loser, and we've said
different players have earned the right to have to throw in a few stinkers. Now Trent is throwing in a load of stinkers, but please don't compare people who have actually shown up for Liverpool. Don't compare it to people who. I mean, somebody mentioned some Egypt in the quotes there mentioned Salah. Please don't compare the two. It's not. I'm not talking about the same. It's like Mohammed Salah's playing a different sport. Don't make the comparison. A comparison to Oxlade-Chamberlain, okay. No, that's not a bad comparison, because Oxlade-Chamberlain has done nothing for us. Nothing. So yeah, I agree. But
Matip not the greatest year, but Matip probably gets a bit of a pass because of how he played in the run to the Champions League final, and he did well in the year we won the league. But you would still say with Matip, the biggest concern of a lot of the players we've got is they're not fit. They can't stay fit enough for long enough. And I think, listen, I'll look and say, Kev and I were saying in the run between the Everton game, the Newcastle game, and the Madrid game, we were going, well, you think Keita will start one of them, because you can't really keep playing the same midfield for 3 games in a row, because we just know Henderson and Bajcetic, you can't keep doing that same midfield. You've got to give him a chance. And he didn't get one, which I must admit, I was surprised. I thought he would at least get the trial, but then, unfortunately for him, he gets his opportunity against Palace, and he didn't take it. And sometimes you just got to say, he just didn't take it.
He didn't want it, Brecky. He didn't want it. You could see it in him. He's not interested. It's a waste of. I would rather have seen young Jones being thrown in, and for the manager to say, listen, it hasn't happened for you. Get in there and remind us of what you can do. I would rather have seen that than Naby Keita just took up a space that somebody else could have taken up, to be honest with you. I mean, people want to have a go with Jordan Henderson for getting in the way of a free kick. Quite frankly, fuck off. I
I'll be
mean,
honest.
I
That Jordan
just watched
Henderson,
5 minutes of half of them playing, to be honest.
Henderson getting in the way of that free kick, I kind of went, that just summed up how our season's going, isn't it? The
Yeah,
one
so
decent free kick we
brilliant.
take, it's our own play. I had to laugh because, like, it's just that's the way it is. Paul Smith saying Jordan Henderson is not a top quality player. He's a passion merchant with hardly any technical ability. If he was, Klopp wouldn't have kept him for this long.
Of course, listen.
Listen,
People slander Henderson because I'll be honest with you, where it all comes from the beginning is he gets an awful lot of flack, and still, but at the beginning, because he wasn't Steven Gerrard. And people were pretty, look, he's replaced Steven Gerrard, he's not Steve. Egypts. If you can't see what that fella brings to a football team, you've no business watching the game. Go and watch cricket. You haven't a clue. Jordan Henderson, listen, he's not Steven Gerrard. He is what he is, a leader of men, and he digs people out when they need to be dug out, and he gets it. I think we're better. When Jordan Henderson, don't get me wrong, he's not setting the place on fire. Nobody is. But when Jordan Henderson is playing, I feel safer about what we're doing. And right now, I don't feel safe watching Liverpool at all, especially when we're knocking it around the back. Everyone is nervous. There's a lack of confidence there. But he's not the problem. If you think Jordan Henderson's the problem, you're stupid, to be honest. That's it.
So, I think I saw, unfortunately, I can't remember the person put it on social media. It was along the lines of plenty to make the mind up of Jordan Henderson when he first signed under Kenny and haven't changed it. And I've always waited for his to go in a decline. Go, see, I told you he was shit. And we'll discount the years he was brilliant for us. For me, Henderson should be a lot more of a rotation player than he is. But to be fair to him, partly the club haven't bought more players in, which they need. And also, the lads who probably should be taking his place.
Hang on a second.
Haven't took their opportunity. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Paul Smith hasn't got to have I have played the game in 4 countries, Paul. So why don't you fuck off out of the comments and go back to your mom's basement? So for me, Jordan Henderson, you're right, Bracky, will replace James Milner. I
think the plan should have been for him to do that this year, but we didn't. Look, we all know it. We didn't get a recruitment right, and the lads we've got, who we brought in, just haven't took their opportunity, sadly. But we are where we are, unfortunately. So that is the joy of Naby. So before we go on to our next two, please don't forget our sponsor, which this year is Breast Cancer Awareness. That's our charity that we're working with, Breast Cancer Awareness. We've got 12 women who are going to do the Dublin Marathon. Fair play to them. Can you interest you, Pete? Dublin Marathon, fancy it?
The way I feel now, Jays, I reckon I could maybe sit there watching it. That's about it.
I'm not sure I could do a 100-meter dash, to be honest. Let alone that. So fair play. So look, the aim is to try and get into 20,000. So we just need to do everything we can. So details are in the description below. So if you can give, please give. Look, times are tough. So if you can give what you can. As Kev always says, the 5s and 10s get you there. If you can't give, just share it in your WhatsApp groups, share it in your works groups. Put it on social media, because you never know who it reaches. Cancer's horrible; it touches far, far too many people. But do you know what? You can sometimes find the right person. I mean, Kieran of this parish donated £500. Something ridiculous. So sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes you just find the right person. So we'll keep pushing this every show. But please, it don't say anything else apart from us two talking guff about football. Do that one. That's the main thing. So, we've definitely we've upset half a chat there, so that's a good start to it. Right. So let's talk about my loser then. So my loser, it's a double barrel blue loser. So we're going to talk Chelsea and Everton, more on their recruitment, because I think they're at both ends of how you get recruitment wrong. Now listen, I know people say it's ironic because Liverpool has it, but let's talk about what it is. Everton for me have got the recruitment terribly wrong, because they pretty much have to sell players just to balance the books, and what they brought in, which we'll go through, is pretty much bang average players, and they are where they are. Chelsea has got the opposite end, where it's all good spending that level of money, but there's absolutely, in my opinion, no plan. It's so scattergun. I don't know what formation they play that makes those players work, and the ones they've kept, I'm going, like for me, Reece James is not a right back. He's a wing back, or he's a right-sided centre-back. In a back four, I think he gets exposed. I think he gets exposed even more with the midfield pivot to play at the moment, which doesn't work without a Kante or a Kovacic, who are both injured. So they're back to relying on Loftus-Cheek, who is 27, 28, and still the lad with potential. I think everyone forgets he's 28.
He's like Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everyone talks Loftus-Cheek like he's a youngster. I mean, he should be in his prime, though. He's just not doing what you'd expect for him to do. So I sort of want to see what you think of it, because we'll start with Chelsea. I mean, look, they've spent close to 600 million now. And do they look any closer, better? Because to me, they still look, they've got no goals on that side, despite the fact they've spent obscene amount of money on the. They brought Sterling in, proven goal scorer. Aubameyang, proven goal scorer. João Felix, proven number 10. Havertz scores a winner in a Champions League fan. So on paper, you're going, they're all goal scorers. Ziyech, they're all goal scorers. But then I haven't yet seen a setup where I've gone like, I don't know how this works. And the midfield just seems to chop and change. It looks so disjointed. It's almost a bit like there's no plan. That's how it looks to me. And I watched Chelsea, I'm like, I just don't know what to do. I mean, they're back to having Kepa in goal. Kepa was getting bombed out 2 years ago. Now he's the main guy for him. It's just that weird situation going like, the scattergun approach just doesn't feel like it. Now listen, they could all settle down and by next year they're like a Mourinho's Chelsea of 2005, but I don't feel like they're going to be.
Yeah.
So it just seems a bit of an odd one, I think.
I just think, to be honest with you, Bracky, I think there's a real cultural problem at Chelsea. I mean, it's funny. I look at Potter, and I think he's an excellent coach. Fantastic. He has a good team of lads around. You look at the tune he got out of Brighton. Brighton are doing things because of the foundation that he laid there. And in fairness to the new guy, he's taken Brighton to the next level, and their recruitment is second to none. I just think if you don't get players to buy into what you're about early, I think there's a lot of Chelsea players looking at Potter going, first of all, who is this guy? And why should I respect him? I think whatever happened, whatever's going on with, the bigger job at Chelsea is getting rid of an awful lot of the fellas who aren't giving you a tune, bringing in poisonous players like the young lad from Atletico Madrid who falls out with everybody despite having flashes of genius. I think the problem is there's just nobody, and it's not Potter's fault. It's when you've got a chairman who goes and spends 600 million, you're bringing in so many egos into a dressing room, and I just think they're all looking at Potter going, "Who is this guy? Who is this guy? And why should I do what he says?" Now, ironically, it's a bit like the situation up front. If you bring in an Antonio Conte, for example, who I'm not saying is any better than Potter, but it's really just saying to the players, you all know who this man is. Some of you may have worked for him before, and you will not fuck around with him. You put someone like that in the middle of that dressing room, and he deals with those egos, and he's pragmatic about it, and he gets what he needs out of them. Also, a lot of the players that you mentioned, like Hakim Ziyech was wearing a Paris Saint-Germain tracksuit 2 weeks ago, doing a medical for them, having been on the verge of signing for them, for Chelsea to pull out at the last minute. Chelsea treat players like garbage. But a lot of the other players that you mentioned as well, they're lovely technical players, but there's nobody there bar, I suppose, Aubameyang, who was a natural goal scorer. And sometimes I think what's wrong with football, I don't know if scouts are looking for in every centre forward, you have to be able to do everything. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, I'm a dinosaur, but I remember the days of, you'd have someone like a Robbie Fowler or Jordan Rhodes, for example, for want of a better example, whose job it was just to score goals. You didn't have to be able to run the 100 meters in 11 seconds. You just had your positional sense had to be good, and your job was to capitalize on the work and creativity of other players. I think that's Kai Havertz is not a goal scorer. He's not a goal scorer. He reminds me a lot of what Teddy Sheringham was. He's a great example of his movement is great. He's fabulous at making space for us. But every time I see him at the top of that diamond shape that they have up top, I always think they're not scoring today. If you're defending against them, you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, where are the goals going to come from? And I don't see it. I see an awful lot of individuals. They brought in another individual from the that they robbed again at the last minute. The Arsenal had done deal. I just think you're setting yourself up as well with the wrong characters. Anyone that's prepared to do that to another club is not going to care about you. He's only going to care about himself. I just think the culture there, everybody thought the culture was going to change at Chelsea when Abramovich went. I think the culture's gotten worse.
It does seem a little bit.
And it sounds to me like it's toxic. And Potter, there's no point in losing the head. A lot of people are wondering, why aren't you losing the head? He's probably looking at it going, there's no point.
I also don't think I've got a feeling they can't afford to sack him anyway, because I wonder if there's an FFP thing with him that maybe they can't even afford to sack him. So
probably, or would it look even worse than it is? And I just think if you're going to bring Potter in, if I was bringing him on, I would say, listen, I want you to bring here what you brought to Brighton. Players and all, as many of the type of players that are up, what we call upwardly mobile, fellas that are going in that direction, not fellas that are you're going to make rich day one, and the hunger's not there. And in fairness, that's what made Alex Ferguson probably one of the best to ever do it. And it's probably something that Jurgen Klopp has to do now. Is when that hunger's gone, you drop the loyalty straight away. Sorry, lads, it's not that you're not a great player, but go off and play for Paris now and nick a few trophies in an easier league, because that edge is gone, and I need to keep that edge.
It still feels a little bit. It still feels a little bit with Klopp. He waits for a player to say, "I'd like a new challenge," and he goes, "Okay."
And you have to be ruthless.
Because that's the reason. We also want Manny. Manny had said, apparently in the January, I fancy a new challenge. He'd known for 6 months that Manny wanted to go, and he's like, "Okay, fine, we'll accommodate that," which is good, because then Klopp's going, "If you want a new challenge, there's no point in me trying to give you a deal with me because you want to try something new." No problem with that. But maybe there are some players you've got like, he maybe say something, you need the new challenge.
Yeah.
Or as Paisley would say, get older somebody else's time. I mean, listen, going back, you may have similar age, I miss the days when you used to just sometimes buy a seasoned vet like Karl-Heinz Riedel, I always use as the example, was he was just won the European Cup in his mid-30s, he was never going to be a regular, and his job was your job is just to be a central focus point while we get Robbie Fowler and Michael Owen ready, and then you go. I actually think the most modern version of that today is probably Giroud. And he gets lambasted for everything because he's not pretty.
The best example was Klinsmann. Klinsmann was the best example.
Klinsmann's the best
example. Never lost the hunger. Spurs just kept bringing them back, and it worked, because when you've got someone like that, the other players, the rest of the players go and play. If I'm playing for Chelsea in a wide position, I'm thinking, who am I playing for? Whereas before, you're thinking, I'm playing for Drogba here. I get to the line, I skin this fella, I put it across there, and Didier Drogba is making a run to the back post, or he's doing something that's going to be lethal. And Jurgen Klinsmann was one of those players. I just don't think the game has changed that much. Whereas you look at Chelsea, and you've got probably 3 or 4 players in that front line who all want to drop deep and make things happen. They don't want to be responsible for the things happening. You can't win football games like that. You can't win. Somebody has to take responsibility in the 6-yard box, and I don't see anyone. The only fella they had was, as I say, Aubameyang, and he doesn't seem to get on with anyone. He seems to be completely poisonous character. And Chelsea, for me, are toxic. I think they're toxic.
And if you flip back to the Liverpool conversation, this is why it's not worked out this year, partly because of injuries and whatnot. I'm starting to like the makeup of the new attack, because I'm going, you've still got the old school front three, which was the Mo Salah type and Diaz, out and out pace. But then we've got, Núñez, who is a bit of an old school backroom ram. He's got ability, he's got pace, but he's not afraid. But he's not afraid to do a bit of a dromper and be a bit of a unit. And then Gakpo, who is probably could potentially be more of a Sheringham type.
Yeah,
like to drop deep, link play, but eventually add key goals to his game. And then you still got and then you've got Jota, who could do a bit of everything. I quite like that going forward. I'm looking at Liverpool going, whatever front three you play or front four, you sort of go. Well, actually, do you know what? That's there's something different there. Whereas, listen, the front three was great, but you kind of do know what that front three is going to do. I mean, whether you can stop it doesn't matter. I've left this up because this shocked me, and I had to Google it. Loftus-Cheek is older than Arthur Melo, which, do you know what? I just think Arthur Melo's 33, and I found he's 26. He just looks 33. He's just one of those blokes. He's permanently 33 in my head.
He's one of them physiologically. I don't understand the signing. Good luck to that. He's all the ability in the world.
When you leave the last 2 days, that's probably it. Paul Smith pointing out that Emily Heskey was a very much underappreciated.
Great shout. That Heskey. I mean, Heskey, talk about sacrifice, and it's funny, Paul, to talk about Emile Heskey. Emile Heskey had no confidence. Absolutely not. If you ever read,
if Esky had Drompa's attitude, and I mean that in a positive way, oh my God, because those 2 years when he was confident, he couldn't be. I had the honour of meeting him. The Liverpool women got unfortunately beat by Leicester, but he's on Leicester coaching staff now. And do you know what? Do you know when you sort of say, like, don't meet someone you knew as a kid because you never know what they're going to be? And he was a reputation of being a lovely, nice, humble bloke. He was so humble in the way that he was sat on the bench, talked to some of the players, obviously coaching tips and all that. And obviously he knows there's Liverpool fans there. He's just sitting there quietly. And then someone shouts his name, Emil kind of picture. He comes, did the picture, did the quick hello, and he went back then, almost like hiding, to sort of go like, my team's just, the women have just won 1-0 in a big game for them. It's a big blow for Liverpool.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not the limelight. It's the women have won. I'm going to stay back. But it was like, but someone, a kid shouted, said, Emil, can I have a picture? Oh yeah, I'm coming have a picture of it. Quick 5 minutes. But he always made sure I'm not the centre of attention. And he was a bit like that as a footballer. He was so giving.
Yeah, it was his problem, to be honest with you. I remember reading Martin O'Neill saying that him and John Robertson used to have to just sit down with him before games, after training, and remind him of how good he was. They used to have to just work on him. He just didn't have that. I mean, a lot of lads, like I think Stan Collymore should have been a world beater, but he didn't have the mentality for it, for a lot of different reasons. But but Heskey in a different way, that he wasn't convinced of his own ability. It's terrible. He had everything. Paul is right to point, and physically he had everything. He made everybody else shine. He brought the best. A lot of people at international level said he was the best partner they ever had.
Everyone who plays with loved playing with him. Last I remember Quinn Phillips in the old Sunderland.
Yeah,
that was a proper old school.
Kevin Phillips was special. Kevin Phillips, but Niall Quinn again, the ultimate selfless number 9, just amazing. Niall Quinn was quality, and I mean we made a laugh because he was Irish, but my Jesus, he was incredible. He was incredible. Yeah, sorry, Brian. I do think Stan Collymore had everything required to be a world beater. He was 2-footed. He could run faster than you can think. He had everything except the mentality to accept himself as a human being and to go to that level. The mental side of the game is everything. He didn't have it. But my God, if you watch back some of the things he did, particularly for Nottingham Forest, unplayable and unstoppable. And he was completely 2-foot. Completely 2-foot.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think he's openly admitted that himself. He's been pretty open about that. So, which is a shame to see because technically, brilliant. He was brilliant at Forest. He was good for the 2 years he was at Liverpool. Liverpool probably sold him at the right time. But that's sort of the way it is. So let's go to the other end of the spectrum with recruitment. Everton is the clear example of, and this is what Chelsea could fall into, is if your balls are up badly, you're absolutely knacked here. Because this is why Everton's last 2 summers have been so loans, frees, beg, borrow, and steal. Because the previous 3 or 4 years, they've spent big on average. I mean, they had one summer where they bought 4 number 10s. And you go, you can't play 4 number 10s because Everton don't play that way. And now they're now looking at going, we need Neil Maupay to score us goals. And you're going, Jesus wept. Neil Maupay wasn't good enough for Brighton. So why is he going to elevate you? And unfortunately for them, is the big thing that kept them up last year was Richarlison. Like him or loathe him, he was an X factor for them, and he had the ability to score, a big goal for them. Calvert-Lewin, unfortunately for them, he's like Bamford is for Leeds, can't stay fit. And Sims, look, he's a kid, and I just think it's really harsh. But I mean, it shows where Maupay is, that a kid's there. I mean, they've bought some, I think, young players. I think Onana, I think Patterson. I think they're good young players. That's probably the sort of players Everton should have gone for, but they've gone too far on the sort of tried and tested bottom run. And I think for Everton, from what I read, it's just do anything to stay up this year, because I think FFP-wise, it relaxes next year for them, because I think a lot of their losses get written off because of the 3-year cycle.
Yeah.
This is the other side of it. If you're going to spend, make sure you spend well, because the big thing with Chelsea now is they bought all these lads. They're on 6, 7, 8-year contracts. And Kev, to be fair, points this out. If quite a few of them don't come off, how do you shift them? Because Atletico Madrid can't do that at the moment. Because they've got loads of lads on 6-year contracts who have built-in pay increases built into the contracts, and they're going, we need to freshen the squad up. but I can't get rid of Saul because no one's going to pay him 180 grand or whatever he's on a week because they're not. He's dropped the level, and that's not his fault. That's just age and fact of life. But then you're sort of going, shit, what we're going to do? Or they go Collymore closing in the fourth.
What a night that was.
I still love that 4-3. It's
what a night. John Barnes that night just pulling the strings. But no, you're talking about Everton. I mean, Everton have spent over 800 million quid to be where they are. I mean, where do you start with Everton? They have a goalkeeper who's, for me, a very good shot stopper that you would expect to be playing at a team that's getting relegated. He reminds me a lot of Mignolet, the same type of goalkeeper. Looks great when he's got a million things to do. It's like I always say about fellas that are always in the tackle. Jordan Pickford will look good because he has lots and lots of things to do. Most goalkeepers that play for Everton will look good because you've lots and lots of things to do, and teams will fall into that trap. And the fact that he signed a new deal probably says more about him than anybody else. I mean, the obvious option might have been to go to Spurs, but I think Jordan is happy enough to be. Probably has a nice little relegation release clause there, but he's happy enough.
Apparently not.
Really?
Paul just come out and said, there's no release clause. Maybe there's a deal with Everton that says if we do get relegated, we will sell you, but we're guaranteeing ourselves there'll be an unofficial fee that you can get, which is a fee that Everton go with that money we can get a half decent goalkeeper to get out of the championship and probably buy a striker with that.
But Jordan is happy enough to be the big fish in the very, very small pond. You look at the two centre backs. I mean, Yerry Mina is a problem. Spending that kind of money on somebody who has no interest in bettering himself as a professional. Every time he's another one of these players. Anytime he has half a niggle, he's out for 3 or 4 weeks. The mentality's not there. It's nothing to do with his nationality, and it's certainly nothing to do with his size. Some fellas are just like that. Seamus Coleman, the only fella that I'd say, you'd have him in any squad, the attitude, but he's few and far between. I was surprised Cody went there, to be quite honest with you. Really surprised.
Well, I think he went on London because I think the new manager just said he didn't fancy him. And to be fair to Cody, he went, well, I'm not going to certain weight. I'll just get a game somewhere else. Yeah.
Tarkowski is another one I was kind of surprised he went there, but he mightn't have had that many offers. He's a battering ram. The point is, fellas like Tarkowski and Cody are always going to look good in that side because they're confident, they stand up and they keep going back for more.
When you look back at it, though, Tarkowski was the biggest praised one in that Burnley back two. Shows now, Ben Mee was the better centre-back because he's brilliant for Brentford.
Yeah, he's a better footballer, much better footballer.
But everyone talks about Tarkowski as the better player. And so when you watch, you go, maybe not. Quantum Geeks asking, what did you make of Karius' performance yesterday? Do you know what? I thought it was a decent enough performance.
He was competent.
First goal you can talk about. Second one, if you're being hypercritical, and look, me and Kev had this conversation about this. The deflection beats him. That's what beats him. In my opinion, he's going down too soon. But that's kind of always a Karius thing. He naturally sinks before he goes up, and that sometimes catches him out. But to be fair, he made a couple of good saves at 2-0, but he couldn't. The reason Newcastle lost 2-0 was nothing to do with Loris Karius. It was down to rank bag marking. And I'll be honest, I thought quite a lot of the players just froze.
Yeah,
on the occasion. But most of them, I've never played in the cup final before, which, to be fair to United, Casemiro, what was it, something like his 14th final he's played in. When you have that experience for your side, it gets you through. And that's what we didn't have. De Gea's played in tons of finals and won them finals. So I think that helps. But
I don't know what Eddie Howe is doing, allowing that sign around the place. We haven't won a trophy in 60 odd years. I thought it's just everybody has their way, but that's just he put on the television screens, didn't he? To remind the players of what's at stake. And I just think maybe
it adds pressure a little bit. Don't you want to release pressure?
Of course it does. And it's not their pressure. If you're looking at Bruno Guimaraes, if you're looking at a lot of the fellas that Massan Maximum, it's not their pressure to have. It's not their expectation. And that's the problem in Newcastle. They put the weight of expectation on everyone that walks through the door. And it's a big big problem. I think a massive problem. I mean, it's not that young fella Guimaraes' fault that they didn't turn up to the last 9 cup finals. Let them go and play. If anything, remind them that this lot, by the way, are the ones under pressure because everyone expects them to win trophies. Go and enjoy yourself. I just think you're playing. Look, Eddie Howe is a professional manager. I'm not, so fair play to him. But you would think you would just
if you flip
go
it
about it differently,
7 years ago, what was the first thing Klopp said? We can't wear history like a rucksack on our back. It's not this squad's fault they haven't won it for 30 years. It's my job to make us win it. But don't blame me for the past 30 years that I wasn't here. And neither were most of these lads. And that kind of, in some ways, to be fair, it probably challenged a little bit of Liverpool fans to go, well, stop blaming, Daniel Sturridge for Liverpool not winning the league for 30 years. He's only been around. He hasn't been around for those 30 years. No, none of them have. And that took the pressure. So, they've won into the 60s. Well, none of their lads was. And to be fair, in the last 20 years, would you ever expected Newcastle to win anything? It's the game, the perspective thing. So, yeah, I thought that was an odd one. But,
strange, to be honest with you. Don't put that on people. Tell them to go out and enjoy themselves, this and that. This is the start of something amazing. What I would say to them is, quite well, there's huge investment at the club. Go and play for your short for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
That's what you should be going to play for. Make sure that you're here because the good times are coming. All this sports washing money is coming in, and we're going to spend it. And make sure that you're still here and that you're not, at Burnley next year. And that's the only kind of pressure that you should be putting on people. Make them play, not stop them from playing.
Right, let's go on to your winner then. Let's finish on a positive. Go on then. Who's your winner?
Who did I pick as my winner?
You told me Bajcetic, so that's what we put.
Yeah. I just think it's very unusual for a young player. And listen, my position on Bajcetic, or whatever you want to call him, is that he should be in and out of the side. He should be playing cup games. He shouldn't be, looked at anything like a main man. But when the real winner, by virtue of how bad we were on Saturday, is what people were kind of saying, why didn't the young fella start? It's a testimony to the work that he's done. It's a testimony to what he does as a player. And, it's an indictment of the fact that, as I said, people like Naby Keita have, spent the last 4 or 5 years just stinking out the place. So, yeah, Bajcetic, for his consistency in performances, an 18-year-old to be so badly missed in a top class, if you will, midfield is huge. The only 18-year-olds you should be hearing that are badly missed are, 2002 Robbie Keane, and maybe 1997 Robbie Fowler. Beyond those types of kids, you shouldn't be missing 18-year-olds. But I thought a little bit of composure was missed,
But the way to flip it the other way is, and it often happens in football, is when you have these adverse seasons. And look, we can flick it back to United because they've got a good example as well. Is sometimes you discover a youngster gets an opportunity that you're not expecting. So, for example, Rashford was nowhere near the United side, and they got an absolute injury crisis up front. So they stuck him up front in the Europa League game. Bang, took his opportunity. That saved United 18 million.
Rashford is a confidence player, like Heskey was. He reminds me of a lot of Heskey. And I think you're always going to get someone like Rashford right if you give him a bit of faith. Give him that confidence to know that, listen, I'm relying on you. You can see when Marcus Rashford was playing for Jose Mourinho, for example, that I'll shove him out on the left when I need to frighten fullbacks. He just wasn't trusted. And now that he's being trusted, he's terrorising people, to be fair to him.
If you go for Liverpool's history, Steve McManaman, he gets his chance because of loads of injuries. Michael Owen's saying, Robbie Fowler's the same. I mean, actually, Robbie Fowler destroys Clough's Liverpool career.
Yeah.
And people forget, Clough was a very, very good forward and a really exciting signing. Yeah. And unfortunately for him, and Clough openly admits it, he goes, what stopped you with a success at Liverpool? He goes, Robbie Fowler arrived, and he goes, he was just better.
End of story.
End of story. And he's very humble about that. He just goes, I don't begrudge it. He goes, look what Robbie Fowler can do. I can't do that.
Yeah. No, we used to play him. We used to play Cloughie deeper. Tried him in midfield because he could play there. Used to play him off of Fowler because Nigel Clough was a very, very good number 10. He was a very good player, very tidy, very good striker of a ball, intelligent player. He was unlucky. When, because if we had signed him 2 or 3 seasons before that, like we wanted to, but his old boy wasn't having it. I think he would have been a lot more successful. Clough was a proper player.
Yeah, and Deco, Harry Kane's a great example. Again, he got his chance because of injuries, because he was just permanently on loan. Sometimes, Trent, to be fair to him, would eventually have broken through to the inside, but he broke in earlier because Klein did his back.
Yeah, Klein.
So he had to give him a go, and it worked out. So I'm not saying the way to find youngsters is just don't sign anyone and hope it all falls apart. But sometimes in adversity, you look for these players. You now look at Bajcetic going, well, if we need 4 midfielders in the summer, maybe we just go and sign 3. And he's the 4th one who is the squad option that's dipped in and out.
Yeah. Look, listen.
And then what you would have spent on the 4th midfielder, you spend it on a Matip replacement, or you spend it on someone else. You know what I mean?
He's jumped ahead of Jones. That's Jones's jersey. And for some reason, he just, as I said, he's had a few muscle problems in that. And he's just not an option. He's just not an option. So he's jumped in ahead. But I think Liverpool will sign 3 big midfielders next year. Don't know who they're going to be. Anyone's guess. But, we know who we should sign. But they will sign 3 big midfielders, and it's going to be all change. And I hope that Bajcetic sticks around the squad. I hope he doesn't go out on loan, because I think when you're surrounded by quality, you can learn so much more from the lads that are going to be there, to be honest with you. And I think Henderson will start doing what Milner does now, coming on, because I tell you what I do miss as well. A lot of the lads watching this tonight will remember when Arsenal were winning trophies, and you would bring on Gilles Gourmandi, for example, for the last 10-15 minutes and see games out. And I think when Liverpool are successful again next year, which we will be, Henderson will start doing that. Will start coming on for 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. He'll start games where fellas need a rest, and that they'll start phasing them out. You'll probably see Van Dijk maybe even in the next 18 months probably made captain. I love Jordan Henderson, but the game stops for nobody, especially in that midfield where you're lacking energy. So as much as I don't want to see it, it'll be he will start to replace Milner, and hopefully, let's see what happens with Milner. Hopefully he takes a coaching role.
Milner will still be playing when he's 40, when he's 47. He'll still be around. I'm just going to upset the chat. I think Milner gets another 1-year extension.
Why not?
But I do think his role will be heavily reduced. As in, like, I expect him to barely play. It almost be like to keep him ticking over, so then he could become a coach. I sort of feel like they want to keep him in the coaching side, because I think Milner is perfect for the under 18s.
Yeah.
Because I think he's made for that. The reason being is he's not had the perfect career, although it feels like it has. People forget. He was getting bombed out at Newcastle.
Yeah.
Newcastle didn't want him. It didn't work out for him. He was going to Villa. It fell through. He went back to Villa, and then he pushed himself so good that he got himself into City. And then he got on to Liverpool. But I think he's the example, because in that way, not everyone's career is going to be a Michael Owen or Wayne Rooney, which just goes up and up and up and up and up and up. It just doesn't. Yeah. Most are more of a Milner type, where they're up and down. And I'm sort of hopeful, like people talk about Jones. My thing with Jones is he can't stay fit. I think the talent's there, but if you can't get him on the pitch, he's not really worth a squad place.
Yeah, he's a confident boy, is Jones.
What you hope is, if he can keep himself fit, is he looks at someone like a Milner. You go, well, how'd you fight out your dip? This is your biggest dip of your career. You've got to get over it. And do you know what? Not that I think he has helped the fact that he's a homegrown player, not just English, club grown. Because reading up on Liverpool don't have enough club grown players, which is why we're one short in the Champions League, because we need so many players that have been within the academy system for so long. Our own, we haven't got enough of them. So I think that's helping there. Kev's breaking. I don't know if he means he's breaking or breaking. Potter under pressure, but has the support of at least one Chelsea owner. That's the banner on Sky. It's
a toxic environment. A man like Graham Potter,
he's going to get sacked just before he plays us. Because that's the standard, isn't it?
He deserves so much better. This guy, the things that he's done already in the game, and the way he carries himself, doesn't throw lads under the bus. but it's toxic. Chelsea's toxic. You know, it's now a squad full of egos. You know, squad full of listen. Look what I done. Here's my CV. You know, it's ridiculous the way they do things. It's ridiculous the way they do things. You know,
unfortunately, it's sadly it's a way of modern football, which is it's not. Look, it's not a sound we all like, but it's. I mean, to be fair, Chelsea have been like that since what 2003.
Yeah, it's just American money now, not Russian money. To be honest, it's the only difference. It's always been toxic.
Pretty much. Someone saying it's £60 million due if he goes.
And good luck to him. Good luck to him.
Do you know what? I'll take the Chelsea job. They can pay me off for 20 million. I'll do him a deal.
Leeds or Southampton. Well, Southampton. You know, somebody, whatever. There'll be some job down there that he will just, you know.
The weird thing is getting sacked by Chelsea actually isn't a problem because it's almost like it's like a badge of honor. Have you been sacked by Chelsea? Yeah, everyone has.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas if he'd actually gone to, if he'd gone to Tottenham or Arsenal or United and failed, I think that'll be a harder rebuild for him. The Chelsea one's always like a shrug now, going, yeah, everyone fails to Chelsea. I'll go somewhere else, do well for it. I'll get another chance because you will.
Toxic. I don't know why. Listen, I was gonna say something even more. You don't know why anyone takes the job. But of course, everybody. You know, I can do it. I can do it better. I just think,
as Kev Wright
puts
that Chelsea direction has sacked much better managers than Potter. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Let's face it. Even Frank Lampard couldn't stay there, and he was part of that committee at one point.
What a spoofer! I mean, if ever there was an example of the fact that there are jobs for the boys that are unqualified, I mean, Everton it would probably take years, even though Lampard was there for less than a year. If it was the damage that he did. I mean, you look at Sean Dyche. Sean Dyche is your run of the mill, up and at him. You know, Sam Allardyce Mark II. Don't be thinking he's a tactical genius. He just came in and did competent. He came in and made people run. But there was fellas coming towards the end of a season or halfway through a season getting sick in a bleep test. What does that tell you? I mean, but yet nobody is looking at Frank Lampard going, what were you doing? Were those lads not fit? I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, you get away with that kind of stuff if you're absolutely supremely confident that you're going to have the ball. And even at that, like someone like Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp would expect that you're absolutely fit. Like Frank Lampard is the biggest spoofer I think I've ever seen. It's incredible what a playing career and an English passport will do for you. Incredible.
Red Steve knows me so well. Imagine Red Steve knows me so well. Imagine Brackett being appointed Chelsea manager and tells the lads he can't do Sundays because he's off to the women's team. It's very true. I'll be off to I'm not doing this bollocks. I'll send me assistant. Pete be my assistant. Pete, go on.
I'll tell you, I'll be happy watching the women's team. Yeah, a few really good players there.
Chelsea. Sam Kerr is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, we're not there. Our lot doing
yeah, they're doing all right. I mean, I think they should stay up this year. You know, Matt Beard's look. The job this year was always stay up, and I think they are. But Fuku Nagano, who's the Japanese international we just signed in January, honest to God, mate, she's ridiculous. My only fear is can we keep hold of her because she's absolutely unreal.
Yeah, I mean, some of the bids that are going in for some of the girls. There's an Irish girl. I think Arsenal bid 250 grand for her. I mean, that's
well, Beth England's just moved to top with 250 grand. I think Arsenal bid 400 grand for Russo from United, and she's only got 6 months left of the deal. I mean, look, she's probably the next main number 9 now for England. That's probably her shirt to lose. Like,
good for the girls. I'm delighted for them. You know, you work hard, you train, you know, you get what you deserve, male or female. You know what I mean? Just as long as the quality's there. I'm not one of these people that thinks equal pay no matter what. Show me the quality. You know, I know you're a huge advocate for the female game, and that's great. But show me the quality, like the English girls showed during the summer. To be fair, show me the quality, and then we'll talk about the money. All of this equality just for equality's sake, no, not in any line of business. You know, if people are turning up, they're being entertained, then we need to have a conversation about the money, but not before then. I'm not a fan of what's her name, the American girl.
I think
not a fan.
I think this for her, I think it's happening with the Canadian women's team is the big problem with the Canadian women's team was they agreed for international football, the men and women get paid the same. It was agreed. I mean, in fairness, international football probably isn't. I don't know what the pay is for international football. Most people earn your money from club football. They agreed it, and then never put it through, and then reneged on it, and then said, "Well, we didn't really say that. You're literally on TV interview saying it."
Yeah, well, they should. But then that's a contractual thing. That's not a holistic. Let's pay everybody the same. That's a contractual thing, and it should have been that. But Megan Rapinoe coming out, what you do is you paint a target for your back. When you come out and say women should be paid the same for doing the same job, it's not like plumbing.
I can get it for international football because I think there is the money's there probably for it. Club football is going to be difficult because at the moment the money isn't there yet. But I would say the women's game, money-wise, is growing and growing. Yeah. The biggest thing for women's football that's happened in the last year or so is Sky money and the BBC money.
Yeah, that's and it's great to see. It's great to see. I mean,
the one thing I would say is, organisational-wise, it's still not great. Yeah. There are still some random things that happen.
Well, neither is the men's game. It just has a lot of money.
You'll never see a men's game called off after 6 minutes because the pitch is literally an ice rink.
Well, can't level that at the girls either. You know, they turn up, they're professional, they do the job.
No, I level that at the authorities where you go in. Yeah. You knew the day before that pitch was never playable.
Yeah.
So, and the weird thing is, Neil Atkinson rightly points this out. Well, so it's like tangent here is.
Okay.
It's always like, did you not know it's cold in January?
Yeah.
It's always been cold in January. It's actually colder in January than it is in December. So why aren't you? If you're going to do a winter break.
But they can't afford to take the hit either. I can understand.
But I think what they could do is start the season in August when it's sunny. Yeah. So you get more fans go into it. Stop the season mid-December and start it back in February. So you cut out those winter months and then the ground you're playing at, which won't have under-soil heating, the chances of you getting it called off are less. And that doesn't really massively interfere with the calendar. Or, as Emma Sanderson, the Bee said, for the first couple of weeks back, that's where all the cup games are played. Which says if they do get called off, not everyone's in the last 16 of the cup. So if they get called off, it's only a couple of games to realize, not 3 weekends fixtures.
Yeah.
And I'd sort of think like that doesn't take a lot of thinking. I mean, look, I'm nobody on a podcast, and I can work that out. So you sort of think a football authority could be able to work very basic things like that out in my head. But I'm sure I'll get something from the FA and tell me I'm talking nonsense. But I sort of feel like that feels like common sense. But
yeah, well. You know, you wouldn't be the first person to call for common sense in this game, you know, and you won't be the last. But unfortunately, it's not the prevalent. It's not always the prevalent course of action, really. Yeah, I think Kevin Sullivan's right. John Motson, what a show! You know, it's not very often that you're truly gutted when somebody passes away. You know, but it's the voice of our childhood. The voice of our childhood. Becky.
I quite like the clapping on 77 minutes for his age and stuff like that. But it's very rare someone like that famous passes away and it's just glowing about him all the time.
Yeah.
You know? And it was I can't remember his name now. I was doing the Friday show. It was a Palace fan. His name will come to me in a minute. He gave perspiration to John Motson was. John Motson made you feel the game.
Yeah.
Because there are certain goals now. You hear Motson's voice before you think of the goal.
Yeah.
Patrick from Eagles TV. Brilliant. But because I was lucky to go to the 06 finals, so I experienced it live. That Gerrard goal. But when you watch it back, that commentary is perfect, and it's not like anything clever, but he just got the emotion right for it. Same with the Michael Owen goal. Some of the Michael Owen goals, he was brilliant for that sort of stuff. But what I liked about him was he clearly did his research, which I'll be honest, quite a few commentators could learn a thing or two about that. But what I liked about it is, although he'd done his research, he didn't throw what he's read up on down your throat. I bet he had 3 pages of notes and used 2 lines.
And some fella just knew. Some fellas just know.
He just goes, I've done all the research, but he doesn't, and he just drops a little pearl every now and again. You go, oh, that's interesting, but it's relevant.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. Whereas
I've done all the research. Look, I've done my work.
Exactly.
That's your job.
You feel. I don't know if you want, and I don't want to pick on it, but because to a certain extent, a lot of them are playing catch up. There's a couple of female commentators that will blind you with stats because it's almost like I need to tell you why I'm here, kind of thing. And I wish they'd stop doing that because some of the girl that used to manage Chelsea, I can't remember her name. Is it Emma something? She knows the game. You can tell.
Oh, she's brilliant on commentary. But she gives you a tactical insight when you need it. And you go,
yeah, but she's forever then thrown. it's too much. You know you know the game, so you know
See
stop.
that I've seen it. I've seen it be spoken to off camera.
Yeah,
I think that's how she is. I think if you give her an answer, it's always a really in-depth answer. I
yeah.
think that's sometimes just how you're built.
But
Which
in fairness, she knows
she,
her stuff. She knows her stuff.
she does know her stuff, and she's been very good at highlighting some of the things that aren't right in women's
And,
football.
and you see, Aunt Dicko was asking about the Saudi flag, and it's funny. It's the one thing I'd say about the likes of John Motson kind of disappearing over the sunset. I'm glad that they're not going to be around to have those conversations. I mean, it's disgusting. It's disgusting that you know um that regimes are starting to take over football clubs and washing their hands in blood. It's disgusting that Newcastle fans are turning up with flags and that one of their kits is now the Saudi kit. It's disgusting, and I'm glad for men like John Motson that they don't have to deal with that crap. It's better. They're better than that. And the game is going in that direction. It's becoming ugly. I'm glad that they had great years where it was a working man's game, and really that was it. It was just rich people bought clubs, and that was it. They just competed. I'm glad that they're not going to be around to be asked, because you don't want certain men to have to deal with certain things. It's one thing. It's turning me off the game, to be honest with you. It's turning me off the game.
There you go. Oh, Ash. Oh, hey, I think you got a fan, Pete. We found you one fan.
Yeah. No, don't do the crime if you can't do the times. What I say. No, it was a good time. It gave me a great springboard. I really enjoyed myself. Met some great people at ITV. Ash, I can't believe it's been 20 years. 20 years. But had a really good time. Then really good time with the band. It should be known, to be honest with you, I've completely fallen out of love with music completely, because music is a bit like football. It's gone. It's dead. It's not about the quality of songs. It's about all of the bullshit that comes with it. Fellas turning up to awards wearing dresses, not because they believe in that, but because they want to be seen. I mean, I've been involved now in acting for the last few years. I've started off as a theatre actor, but I've done a couple of shows now with Netflix that come out this year, and I find that acting is much more comfortable. There's less people that are full of shit, and you're judged based on whether you can deliver the lines and whether you can do the business or not. Whereas music is, as I said, fellas, we're still talking about fella turning up in bubble dresses and wanting to be called them. It's just complete nonsense. Everybody to themselves. I don't judge people, but at the end of the day, it's just become a cesspool of bullshit music. Whereas acting, to be honest with you, it's great crack, great fun. I've been lucky enough to be involved in some good theatre productions, some good TV productions, and I wouldn't look back. I wouldn't even walk into a recording studio unless it was for charity now. It's just music is just saturated with fucking Egypts, to be quite honest with you. I'm not interested anymore.
Fair enough. Okay. So, right, it's 11:05. I think that's bedtime for me and you, because I'm tired now, and I've got the joys of it. I've got the joys of a 3.5 hour trip to Scotland. So that's the rest of my week sorted. So listen, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and speak to you guys very, very soon. There'll be shows on rest of the week. There'll definitely be a preview show tomorrow. There'll be Full Time Reds, which will be Matt and Kev, where hopefully Liverpool have won a game. It could be a nice novelty, wouldn't it? But you never know. But until then, listen, thanks for joining us, and we will speak to you all very, very soon.
Take care.